Okay, we'll be live in about 3 seconds. 3, 2. All right. Welcome everyone to Montgomery Heart and Wellness YouTube Beyond the Script. And apologize for us coming on late. We had some technical difficulties. We were using another streaming device. And as always, with anything starting off, you have technical difficulties. And so my other guests are coming on through our Zoom link. But I want to welcome you to a very wonderful show. This is going to be one of a weekly event, and I'm going to be part of a panel. As I told you before, I would get some very intelligent guests, many guests who are much smarter than I am in many of these topics. And this is our inaugural show of Fresh, Natural, and Live. It's raw and uncut conversation with healthcare professionals. I'll be joined with by my cast. Normally there'll be 5 of us, but we may rotate in and out based on our schedules because everyone has a busy schedule. Tonight, I want to introduce my special guest here on the channel is Ms. Isosa Adosawam, and she is a nutritionist. She has a very long resume: an actress, actor, writer, a nutritionist, a life coach. She has expertise in raw foods and detox, and she's going to enlighten us with her talents in that area. Also, who'll be joining us in a few minutes is Dr. Celeste Palmer. Dr. Palmer is a pediatrician here in the Houston area, and she has expertise in natural foods as it pertains to children and adolescents. She's a plant-based expert and has a lot of insights into natural healing for children and helping your kids and adolescents avoid, some of the acute illnesses and to some extent chronic illnesses of adolescents. The 2 guests, panelists who are not with us tonight is Dr. Pamela Atkins, who's family medicine trained. She's a functional medicine physician here in the Houston area, has lots of expertise in areas such as thermography, women hormone stabilization, and the like. And Dr. Fort Atkins, who won't be with us tonight, but who's part of the panel, and he has expertise in many areas, particularly toxins, nutrient supplements, areas of water, and many other areas. He has this background training in podiatric medicine. So welcome to the show. A number of you have submitted some topics in advance, and we have prepared those. It's also, were you able to get those topics, email the questions?
Yeah.
I emailed one just before we went on. And
yeah,
so,
I saw that.
I'll read them. So I hope you guys were able to go through them and answer them. Today's topic will consist of dealing with boosting the immune system. And what we're going to do with each of these shows is that we're going to have a topic of the day that we discuss, and my panelists will weigh in, and we will, and I need to make, oops, I got 2 people in the waiting room. Sorry, not paying attention. Dr. Atkins is here. Dr. Palmer, Dr. Pamela Atkins. Let's see. Okay, so the rest of our guests is on the way. Hold on 1 second. Did I get everybody in? Hello, I think, let's see, Dr. Pamela Atkins is here. Is Dr. Ford Atkins available?
Yes, he's on. He's getting on now.
Okay, let me see here. Okay, Dr. Palmer, there you are. Hello, how are you doing?
Good.
Okay, great. I can hear everyone. We had trouble with the link through the other streaming device. So I don't see him in the waiting room. So I'll bring him on. So as I said, we each week we're going to have a topic where we discuss the topic of the day. And today we're going to talk about boosting the immune system. And there's been a lot of talk about the immune system, given the recent pandemic. Hello, Dr. Floyd Atkins. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Fine, thanks. Now we lost Dr. Pam Atkins. Let me see here. Hello. I think I have you all on the screen. I see Dr. Pam Atkins, your camera went out. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm not sure why my camera's not on. It says webcam access allowed, and I see a check there.
Let's see. Okay.
And I turned it on. I don't have the line on it. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's warming up. I don't know.
Okay. Well, we can hear you loud and clear. Work with the camera, and then we will work with getting your video. And we had your camera on for a second, and it went out when Dr. Flora came in. So we'll keep working with that as the show goes on. So as I said, we're going to talk about boosting your immune system. Many individuals, many of my patients have come to the office, and everyone's concerned about the coronavirus and we're in the pandemic, and the whole issue with viral infections or any infections. The key is having a strong immune system, and the issue with catching a virus, and everyone's been nervous about this. The critical factor is simply that if you have a strong immune system, then you really will defeat the virus. I mean, your body is designed to have dominion over the virus, and our immune systems are incredibly designed. What makes people susceptible to viral infections or any infection is the fact that their immune systems are compromised. Now, I'm using the phrase immune system as though it's one, finite, component. However, the body is integrated. The hip bone is connected to the knee bone, et cetera. And so, although I'm going to talk about the immune system as though it's an isolated organ system in the body, it doesn't work in isolation. I'll give you a few examples why. But the immune system basically has two components. You have the innate immune system and the acquired immune system. The innate immune system is the most rudimentary part. That consists of things simple as your skin, mucous membranes, cilia, hair. These types of things keep bacteria out. This is your first defense. For instance, burn victims frequently die from infections because oftentimes they have burn and they lose a large portion of their skin. And so that's a big setup for infection. So a big important part of the immune system is part of our bodies that we take for granted. Now, you do have inflammatory cells that are part of that first phase of the immune system. So let's say a bacteria or virus comes in. All right, there we go. We got both of the Dr. Atkins. So the whole show is here. So we're all intact. So a foreign agent, if you will, invades the body. Then the body reacts. So let's say a virus gets in, it gets into your mucous membranes, and then the inflammatory cells will react to that virus or bacteria or any other foreign agent. It's going to identify it as foreign. So how the immune system identifies as foreign is just based on the protein makeup. The protein makeup of the self is going to be unique from the protein makeup of the invading organism. So the innate part of the immune system will block it initially. It has mucous membranes, it has mucus form up. So that's why if you catch a cold, you have lots of mucus build up because that's part of your innate immune system reacting to the virus. So it may surround it and try to push it out, expel it from the system. Some viruses or bacteria will then make it past that first phase. However, the body is smart because the early inflammatory cells identify the virus as the virus or something foreign, and then it will then send out a signal to other cells. It'll send out signal to other parts of the immune system, which then says, hey, this is what this guy looks like. And so let's say, for instance, the virus gets into some of your innate cells, then the body's inflammatory cells will then send signals to those cells that are invaded to destroy the virus. So it'll, for instance, if it's a virus and it's an mRNA, RNA producing virus, then that cell would then stop replicating with RNA. If it's a cell that is overwhelmed with viruses, then that inflammatory cell will actually destroy that innate cells. So it will destroy some of the self cells because it's overwhelmed with viruses. And it does a number of other things. Now, it then sends signals to parts of the acquired immune system. These are B cells and T cells, and they produce antibodies, and they create more of a specified or specialized form of immunity. when you're creating antibodies. And this is the part of the immune system that, we're trying to boost when we give vaccines or the like. But the virus or foreign agent serves as a vaccine because it invades. If the immune system is healthy and robust, it will then identify this organ and then create antibodies. So the antibodies are sort of like recognition devices. So the specialized facial recognition mechanism says, oh, this is what this foreign agent looked like. And so it's going to be attacked. And so these antibodies hang around for future invasions so that your immune system is more enhanced to address this foreign agent. So these are some of the basic components of how the immune system works. And it's much more complex than what I've outlined, but I try to give you a basic description. However, although I've discussed this in isolation, what I want you to understand is that the immune system doesn't work in isolation. For example, if someone has bad circulation, so even though you have a robust immune system, but let's say you have atherosclerosis, and so your arteries to the periphery are impaired, you may not get flow to your big toe. So let's say you stub your big toe and you get a little cut. You may be a diabetic, so your nerves are compromised. You may not feel the abrasion or cut. And so you walk around with a cut in your toe and the cut becomes infected because there's poor circulation to the toe. And so the skin barrier is broken. So the first phase of the immune system may be somewhat intact, but if you can't deliver blood flow, then those inflammatory cells can't get there. And so diabetics get foot infections as part of the mechanism. So they may have an immune system that's reasonably intact, but because they have circulatory disease, the immune cells, inflammatory cells cannot get the blood flow, can't get to that infection. And so the bacteria or whatever the foreign agent may be is lining up and doing damage. And so you get diabetic foot, so you have to get amputations. Dr. Flora Atkins can talk to you about that. As a podiatrist, we see these issues all the time. So this is just one small example as how the immune system doesn't necessarily work in isolation, but other organ systems have to work with it. The liver, for example, produces protein. And so the antibodies are made of protein structures. And so if you have a poorly functioning liver, then you may not be able to make adequate protein, make adequate antibodies because the protein production is low. So this process is a complex process, but how do you boost it? How do you enhance your immune system? Well, anything that destroys the body's normal milieu. So for instance, let's say I'm sitting in this room, it's nice and comfortable, but what if someone were to turn the temperature up to 110 degrees and make it hot and humid in here, and maybe they blow wind through here, then the environment would be very uncomfortable for me to work. And so the body has an environment that it has to work in. The enzymes and the cells all have to work within a comfortable environment. So that body's environment has to have a certain pH and a certain temperature, a certain chemical structure of the blood and plasma. And these things are very important. If the body's milieu, the chemical structure of the body in the blood flow, in the tissue spaces, the fluid is filled with abnormal chemicals. These chemicals, we sometimes call them reactive oxidative species. These chemicals can be damaging to the organ system. They can cause damage to the heart, the lungs, the kidney, but it also can cause damage to the immune system. So individuals that have lots of toxins in their system, they have an imbalance between toxic molecules and what we call non-toxic molecules or antioxidants. Normally you need to have both, because some of the toxic molecules can be used as weapons against, say, foreign agents. So the inflammatory cells that kills a bacteria, kills a virus, can use some of these toxic molecules in a controlled fashion. However, you can have an imbalance, excessive number of these toxic molecules. We call them, again, reactive oxygenated species, and they float around and they can cause damage to cells. And you have an excess amount of these toxic chemicals, we call that oxidative stress. These are fancy phrases, but oxidative stress just means that you're toxic, okay? So we talk about toxin detox. So a toxic system that's toxic overload is a system that has oxidative stress. So many people with diabetes, heart disease, lung disease, advanced age, they walk around with oxidative stress. So because of this, their immune system will be compromised. And so when they get infected, the immune system may not react as fast. It may not be as accurate. So it may not attack just a foreign agent. It may attack cells. So they may get an autoimmune response. And so because they have an impairment of the immune system, due to the fact that they have too many excess toxic chemicals, that puts the immune system at a compromised position, and therefore that makes them more susceptible to infection. How do you then reverse this process? I'm glad you asked. You reverse it by nourishing the body properly, okay? Our patients, they come in, we put them on an antioxidant diet. So an antioxidant rich diet can be a diet rich in plant-based foods, raw fruits and vegetables, lots of greens, lots of fresh fruits, lots of water to hydrate the system. You want to remove toxic chemicals. You want to remove animal protein and processed carbohydrates. I had a nice discussion with Dr. T. Colin Campbell, and there's a discussion on the channel, and you can look it up. And we talked about the antiviral effects of a plant-based diet. And he showed me data showing how an increased amount of plant-based diet had an adverse effects on hepatitis B virus. And so in theory, an antioxidant plant-based diet can boost the immune system and more specifically have an antiviral effect. So nourishing the body with a plant-based diet, an antioxidant-rich diet. There are supplements. I'm going to have my panel chime in on this, but you want to make sure your vitamin D levels are up. You want to get fresh air and sunshine. Of course, plenty of sleep, lots of hydration, vitamin C from your foods. Somebody who may have a compromised immune system, who may be chronically ill, may supplement with vitamin C. You may also supplement with zinc or also supplement with vitamin A. But these are the types of things that you can do to boost your immune system, especially during a time where there's a pandemic and you're concerned about contracting infection. These are some of the things you can do. So I'm going to take a break right here. Guys, anybody want to chime in? We do have some questions, but I just want to get y'all's comments on the immune system issue. And anybody, is there anything I left out? I'm sure I left out a lot, but any comments from the panel?
Well, one thing I do want to add to what you said, it's one of the underlying causes, one of the primary factors when we see problems with immunity is just looking at what I call the lowest common denominator. And what we see is that one reason that immune function is lacking in people is they don't have the underlying micronutrients, and those are the phytochemicals, the antioxidants. So a lot of times people have a functioning immune system, but if you don't have the vitamins and minerals, the antioxidants, amino acids, the cofactors that you need to make cycles work to produce the immune cells, you're still at a disadvantage. And you did mention that, so I think that's where the phytochemicals from plants come in, because they provide those things we need. A lot of people are healthy, they work out, but their diet is lacking because they don't have those micronutrients they need to function properly. And that's another key factor. And then one thing I always am a big advocate is detoxifying, because if we're loaded with organophosphates, we're loaded with pesticides, herbicides, fungicides. If we load it with artificial colors, flavors, and chemicals like that, they hamper the immune system. They hamper these micro processes, the oxidative phosphorylation, or the processes that take to produce energy in the cell, to produce immune function, to produce those immune cells that gives us the protection we need. We know that 80% of immune function is in the gut. It's from the time you put it in your mouth to the time you eliminate it. That's 80% of the immune function right there. The cells are produced, and that's the first line of defense for the body. So we have to protect our digestive system. So when people have impaired digestion, whether it's digestion, whether it's what they're eating, number one, number two, whether it's digestion, whether it's assimilation or absorption, all of those things will impair immune function and put us at a disadvantage again and make us susceptible to whatever the virus du jour or the disease du jour is. So that's what I was thinking.
I like your comment about the gut, the microbiome, and that's really critical. Oops, did I lose you? Yeah, the microbiome is really important because, you know, we've been told to quarantine, and many of my patients are, you know, they come in the office, they got the mask and their, you know, PPEs on, and they've been in the house for days. And I said, look, get outside, take your shoes off, and, you know, roll around in the dirt. And so the gut flora, but the total body microbiome is an important part of the immune system. We did have one question, and I responded on the chat. Y'all can't see him, but there's a question: is there a reason that vitamin D would cause headaches? I tried vegan options too. I just go outside often now. My response to the question, would vitamin D cause headaches? It could be, could depend on the type of vitamin D supplement you have. But this is Shonda Hector asked a question online. I don't know if y'all can see the questions. I'm looking at them. They come up delayed on. Anybody want to chime in on that? Could it be some other reason than the supplement?
Yeah, I would like to say something. I think vitamin D, I'm not aware of vitamin D itself causing headaches. It is a fat soluble vitamin, so we don't want to take toxic levels, but generally people of color, you know, generally with more melanin need more, but a general level, I usually start my patients on is 5,000. So, but people may need it between 5,000 and 10,000. And then when we have acute viral symptoms, you may increase it to as high as recommend 10,000 for a week, and then to take it back to your normal dose your doctor has you on. But as far as the headaches, I would say, look at the inactive ingredients, because in a lot of supplements, we don't always consider the inactive ingredients, but some of the poor quality ones may have artificial colors, may have corn or other ingredients that you may be reacting to, and not the vitamin D itself. So that I would say, look at the inactive ingredients and try to get one that is doesn't have artificial colors and preservatives and maybe corn and other starches that some people may be sensitive to, even milk products.
Yeah, I like that comment, because many of the over-the-counter vitamins are not very good, and I recommend getting your vitamins from someone who knows what they're doing, like the Dr. Atkins, who you know, really you know, procure vitamins and research them. But talk to your physician or a functional medicine physician who you know, has a little insight into vitamins and know the source of those vitamins. And so I think that's important in terms of the vitamins.
Also, to Dr. Atkins, do you prescribe calcium with your vitamin D? Sometimes I do that with my patients.
Yeah, I think, you know, calcium, there's been kind of a controversial approach towards calcium now, because there's some concern maybe taking calcium supplements, maybe we're increasing the calcification of our blood vessels and organs in our body, and we think we want to think like we want to get calcium like animals do, like cows do. They graze and they get all the minerals that way. So I really do push with the diet, you know, the dark green leafy vegetables, and you know, as a source of calcium, and instead of calcium supplements. So usually I don't prescribe the calcium with the vitamin D. I do like K, but if someone has a tendency towards or a risk for more clotting or cardiovascular disease, I'm careful about you know, the Ks, but calcium I prefer to push it with the diet.
Okay.
I agree with you. I try to avoid the calcium supplements because there's some data suggesting, particularly in women, it can predispose to cardiovascular events. The Rock Children Ministries wants to say hello to Dr. Atkins, so I just say hi. Let me get one more question online, and then I want to go through these. I tell you what. Well, I'm gonna read the questions that were sent ahead of time in a minute. Let me get this other question. Pat Lathrop, how do you know which supplements are safe and which ones to avoid? Who wants to take that one on?
Well, I would say with vitamins, I don't like. I think you don't want to get vitamins from your drugstore, your standard grocery store, but you want to get a high quality one. Although some grocery stores may start supplying a high quality one, but they have more inactive ingredients, as I said, and we're not always aware of these inactive ingredients. I mean, just as medications, medications have artificial colors and fillers and all kinds of things in these purple, pink, blue, and yellow capsules. So that's why we want to focus on, good nutrition and taking care of our bodies. So we need less medications in the future. So there are some, companies that have good quality vitamins and supplements. And so I think, checking with your holistic practitioner and asking, getting some recommendations on good quality products, I think that's probably the safest way.
Yep.
And you always want to be sure that when you get a product that you don't want to get the most least expensive product that you can find, because I think that's a problem with a lot of the supplements that we see. If we get a product that is $5, you say vitamin E for $5, you might say another vitamin E for $20. But a lot of the cheaper ones are synthetic, and you can tell by the way they're labeled. Like if you're looking for a vitamin E, one will say alpha, and let's start with a D alpha or L alpha. And you always want to get the D or the alphas. Those are the ones that are from natural sources as opposed to one from a synthetic source. What they find out through research is that the synthetic vitamins, although they are made in a lab and they are synthetic, they don't have the same biological effect as a natural source. So that's why a lot of people say, I take vitamins, it's still like they feel it's not helping them. And it's really not. They're paying for a vitamin, but they're paying for something that doesn't really work.
Yeah, yeah. And again, as Dr. Atkins said earlier, you want to try over time to get it from your food. Sea vegetables are super rich in minerals and vitamins. Blue-green algae are good. We recommend like an ether-lab blue-green algae for our patients. Spirulina as well. So this is good. So Cynthia Hammond says, good evening all. I hope you all enjoyed your Memorial Day. I have to go back and view the broadcast later. Okay, Cynthia, thanks for checking in. And yes, we will be, this will be on the channel. I want to read some of the questions that were submitted ahead of time. Let me go. This is really a three-part question. I'm a 53-year-old postmenopausal Black woman with Hashimoto's. Although gluten-free, I went vegan 5 months ago in an effort to further improve my health. My biggest obstacle is my inability to lose weight, 50 pounds to be exact. Number one, are there foods I should avoid to help with weight loss, such as fruits, cruciferous vegetables, and potatoes? Number two is, so I'm gonna hit you with this one. Should I concentrate more on cardio and resistance training instead of further restricting my diet? And three, I take Kirkland's Organic Whole Food Source Multivitamin once a day, but according to a chronometer, I am still not consuming enough protein and minerals such as zinc, copper, calcium, magnesium, and phosphorus. The last part, I've long admired the concept behind the Montgomery Heart and Wellness Center. I work as a nuclear tech at a cardiology office here in Florida, in which we prescribe food as our primary source of medicine. One of our doctors and I began vegan after watching Game Changers, so there may still be some hope. I wish you continued success for your work, Dr. Montgomery. Thank you very much. This is, I'll just give Cindy is the name she gave. And so you want to comment on that? So she's vegan. She wants to lose more weight. There's some issues with her nutrient consumption and absorption, et cetera.
Yeah. So with the patients that I have with Hashimoto's, I always look for accounts written by people who have actually healed their symptoms or have healed their condition. And so I found a really awesome book by Isabella Wentz, PharmD, called Hashimoto's Protocol. I think it's like reversing thyroid symptoms and getting her life back. And it's a really, really great guide. And she focuses in on supporting 3 specific areas in 3 phases. She focuses on supporting the liver, supporting the adrenals, which would be really important also through menopause and then post-menopause. And then she also focuses on the gut. And so all of those 3 areas are things that you have to look at. The other thing with Hashis is that there actually are like infections, like parasitic infections and other things that can be related to Hashimoto's that a lot of patients with Hashimoto's have had. So I also like to get people to do stool testing or do some GI mapping or something to kind of figure out what's going on in their gut and if there's any other infection happening. And then generally speaking, with any woman over 50 that I've worked with who's trying to lose weight, I usually try to get them to consider intermittent fasting. So sometimes it's not exactly what you're eating, but sometimes you need to restrict as far as eating really late, especially for women. It doesn't really work very well over a certain age. So sometimes I just try to get them to like stop their dinner at a certain point, and then resume the next day. But with this particular person, I would love to know what her history was with her period, what her menopause was like. That would give me an indication of where her adrenals may have been a moment ago. And then from there, I would look at what need to be supported to get her back to 1. But I think it would have to be done in phases. And sometimes it seems like, oh, it's just the thyroid that's the problem, but there's a whole other system that's the problem. And so it would be trying to figure out what it is for her so that she can actually slowly nourish her body. When it comes to the exercise, the other thing I'll say is a lot of people who have adrenal issues, it actually is not helpful for them to do strenuous, high intensity exercise because the body then kind of translates that to being in fight or flight mode and being, cortisol is high, et cetera. So it's actually better for them to do more gentle exercise, like walking, any sort of mindfulness exercise that's low impact, that's not going to stress them out while they're, doing the workout. So I wouldn't focus on being really rigorous or anything like that, but there's a couple more data points that I would need to figure it out, but those are my initial thoughts.
Well, that's great. Anyone else want to chime in and add to that?
Yeah, I'd like to say for Hashimoto's, thyroiditis, and autoimmune diseases, I usually like to do a food sensitivity test to see if there's triggers to their autoimmune nature of the disorder, because that can be triggers. And so I agree also with the adrenal support, but a blood food sensitivity testing can be helpful because you can have a healthy diet, but there can be some normally healthy foods that may be triggers that you're not aware of. I see in her question also, she said, perhaps I think I heard you say she has eliminated cruciferous vegetables. And I know cruciferous vegetables are considered goitrogens, but I think there are more benefits to them than risk for thyroid disorders. So I don't discourage my patients from taking cruciferous vegetables. We're talking vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower and kale and Brussels sprouts. I think there's some more nutritional benefit. But I just don't recommend taking them close to any thyroid medication or iodine supplements. But, so I think that is something, I don't think that's a lot of vegetables you eliminate. It's most nutritious green vegetables. And so that's one thing. I mentioned adrenal support, and I agree with Sosa with the adrenal support. And I would say with Hashimoto's, at first there's an inflammatory effect and the thyroid can be overactive, and then eventually there's the underactive effect, and she may be at that effect. And there's a point where she may be on medication, thyroid supplementation. So if she is on thyroid supplementation, want to make sure it's well balanced. And so that would be something that, you know, you want to make sure she is well balanced on thyroid medication. And I usually like medication more compounded with less additives, because sometimes they're sensitive to the artificial color and the additives in that medication.
There was another part to the question about protein, right? And her vitamin. And it sounded like she was taking a really generic vitamin. So I would recommend that she work with someone to find maybe a better multivitamin. Yeah. And then she said something about chronometer. What was it? Her
chronometer shows that she's not absorbing a lot of the minerals and vitamins, despite being on a multivitamin. The right. One of those chronometers that they measure absorption.
I use that all the time. You can just put your diet in there, and it can tell you what you're missing. Mm-hmm. If she was putting her diet in chronometer and then seeing those deficiencies, then those specific deficiencies that she mentioned, it sounds like she might need to eat more plant-based sources of protein, everything from quinoa, beans, nuts, seeds, etc. And then I think it was like copper, zinc. I can't remember the other ones she put. And then there's also there are also some, there are some supplements you can take to help with protein sometimes. I don't ever go to them first. I usually go to them very last, and only if I have like an athlete or someone really intense. But like Perfect Aminos is one that's not that bad, and it's vegan, and it's, it will give you all of your essential amino acids. But I also just recommend eating a well-rounded plant-based diet that includes enough plant-based protein, because sometimes we can neglect it and then we end up deficient.
I agree with that. I just wanted to say with that, and I just caution doctors telling patients you need to eat more protein, so patients think meat, and I don't think that's the answer. And you can get good quality protein in a plant-based diet. So I don't want her to think, okay, I need to eat meat because of that. So I just would want to look at that the protein deficiency, and as you said, make sure she's absorbing nutrients well in her gut.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Palmer, what issues y'all have with autoimmune disease in children, and what are some of your thoughts on addressing that? This lady is not a pediatric patient, but what are some of the issues in children that we deal with?
We see the most common, it's not technically considered autoimmune disease, but we see a lot of eczema, which reflects that there is an issue in the body. So of course, allergies, asthma, and all of these reflect on how the immune system is functioning. And basically you get an over response in the immune system, which creates mucus plugs, like in asthma. Also you get inflammation in the layers of skin, which creates the eczema and the rash and the constant itching and hyperpigmentation that the children suffer from. So these illnesses, although we are talking about pandemic, these things that are so common in pediatrics happen because the immune system also is being not strengthened as well as it should be. And a lot of people don't realize that a lot of the processed food that children consider food nowadays is contributing to that. I spend a lot of time talking to families about real food versus processed food. And unfortunately, this generation of children, they really don't get to see a good idea, a good example of what real food is anymore, because the media has kind of flooded the system with a lot of processed foods. So just starting from basics with children and teaching them, and in a lot of instances with eczema, as I started talking about, it's removal of certain things that helps to decrease the inflammation in the skin. And you'll see an immediate response.
I like that comment, removal, because that's what people have the most trouble with. People can take supplements until they're blue in the face, but tell them to not eat something, my goodness, it's like pulling teeth.
Well, the thing is, the way that the brain works is if you take something away from someone, they're going to feel a loss, you know? And so as a behavioral coach, one of the things I always focus on is substitutions, because sometimes it's way more effective to say to somebody, instead of saying, you can't have that cake, I'm going to say, you can have cake, but this is what it has to be made with, you see? So that is how usually you can help someone change much easier without giving them the shock of like feeling like they're losing, you know, their favorite snack.
Right.
So how about a broccoli leg in place of a turkey leg? How's that work?
Often,
Leg, it's gonna be broccoli leg.
often in pediatrics now, the good thing is they have a lot of supplements or a lot of alternatives, not supplements. So ice cream, you can do coconut milk ice cream or almond milk ice cream. So it makes it a lot easier for children to be able to substitute and still feel like that they are having their dessert with the rest of the family and not feeling abnormal, because I think it's a normalcy thing too. You don't want to take everything away from one child when everybody else is doing something different. Now, it's a whole different discussion about switching the mindset about having dessert every night, but we'll talk about that later.
And you can also do banana and ice cream.
Oh, that's good.
Dr. Palmer, you can just have them have a frozen banana and put some vanilla in it.
They're very specific about what they want.
Right.
So yeah, we've talked about, you know, doing smoothies and freezing smoothies and bananas and ice, but children, when they want something, they want specifically that type of taste. So that's why, you know, I talk to them about those alternatives, because it tastes more like an ice cream.
We have another great question here that was submitted before time. This is from Jackie, Milton, Massachusetts. Number one, why do you recommend grapefruit seed extract? What does it do? Number two, I'm a hot yoga teacher. My boss says that the hot room where we practice and teach yoga, which is heated to 105 degrees, 40% humidity, kills coronavirus. Is that true? All right, who wants to take that on? Sounds like a Dr. Ford Atkins question.
Well, I think the jury is still out as far as heating coronavirus, because, you know, I have a sister who lives in Sierra Leone, and they're completely shut down because they do have corona there, and it's pretty hot there right now. They're running around 98 to 100 degrees every day. And also places in Central America. Still, it may have a mild effect on decreasing the spread, because I think the colder it is, the more people tend to say isolated or closed in. You know, so it may have to do with more, I guess, logistics, more so than actually killing the virus itself. That would, you know, so I don't want people to think that they can just, you know, do hot yoga and that's it. I know a lot of people are drinking hot teas and they say, well, I drink hot tea every day. But I said, if you drink hot tea at 1 o'clock, what do you do at 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock? Because the virus is still there and you'll be drinking hot tea all day long. So again, we refer them back to addressing your body. Rather than addressing the virus, address your immunity, address your health. And he asked a question about grapefruit seed extract.
Yes, sir. What does it do?
Grapefruit seed extract is a natural antiviral, antibiotic, anti-yeast, antifungal. It has those effects that kills viruses. You know, it's effective, it's been proven effective against things like salmonella, cholera, E. coli, strep, all of those bacteria, and antiviral also. It actually inhibits the formation of this viral structure. So it prevents virus from replicating. That's the main thing it does. That, along with another one, is olive leaf extract, is another herbal product that kind of does the same thing. It also, you know, we really recommend using things like grapefruit seed extract because it not only kills the bad bacteria, but it doesn't kill the good bacteria. It kills the pathogens, but it doesn't affect your good flora. So therefore, you don't destroy your whole, you know, biome, your probiotics just by taking that product also. So a good product, you know, it does so many things. It's effective against allergies. It helps with people when you have allergies. If you're taking, say, 8 to 10 drops in 8 ounces of water at least twice a day, it's helpful for that. Killing any bacteria or viruses or molds or fungus or yeast. You know, we actually use that as in water, maybe 30 drops a day in about a basin of water just to wash our fruits and vegetables, because it kills the natural fungus and molds that grows on organic vegetables, and therefore they tend to last longer. When you rinse them and dry them and put in your refrigerator, they'll last longer, because as anybody knows, if you do organics, and they'll last about 3 or 4 days, but the natural molds and fungus that live on them tend to eat the plants up right away. So grapefruit seed extract really helps with that.
Wow.
And it's not grapefruit juice or grapefruit, so it shouldn't interact with medications, like doctors say not to use grapefruit juice or grapefruit, not to eat that when you're taking medication. So I just want.
Glad you pointed that out, because some people ask that question. I never knew that answer. How about someone who's allergic to grapefruit? Should they avoid the grapefruit seed extract also?
Well, you know, I don't want to take a chance, so you know, perhaps that we should have you know, promote caution with that situation. You never know if somebody's going to react to the seed.
I tend to be conservative. Here's another question that was submitted ahead of time. Hello there. I'm a 56-year-old female. I feel that I'm in decent health. However, I have high blood pressure and I'm pre-diabetic. Last year I had the flu and I feel like my lungs are not as clear as they should be. Any advice on how to keep the lungs clear, or perhaps clear them up?
I saw that before we got on the call, and the first thing that came to my mind was fenugreek. I don't know what medication she's taking, but then I was like, okay, let me look that up again, because I don't know why that came to my mind. And fenugreek is a lung tonic. It can facilitate lung secretions. It's recognized for its anti-diabetic properties. It might solve several problems for this woman.
Yeah, great point. And I would go back to the nutritional regimen. You know, when I see patients like this in fairly good health, they exercise, I will strip it, because oftentimes there's something getting into the diet that's not quite ideal. And so I'll put them on a raw detox. I'll put them on raw fruits and vegetables only. We go for about, 4 weeks. We may be as aggressive doing a juice feast. We've had great example with people with severe lung disease, chronic inflammatory lung disease. We put them on prolonged detoxes, and lots of mucus comes up, and the lungs clear up. And so even though you're in decent health, quote unquote, look at your nutritional regimen. A raw food detox would be a great way to clean your system out. And doing that periodically, I think works pretty well.
I'm going to piggyback off of you, Dr. Montgomery, because I think a lot of times when people are able to clear out their diet somewhat, then they can tell what the problem is, what the problem food is. A lot of times when you are combining a lot of different foods, you can't tell, okay, this cheese is creating a problem. And I just use that as an example. So clearing things out, starting kind of a fresh diet, doing a detox where you're just doing fresh fruits and vegetables. And then, because what most people are going to do is they're going to add their normal foods back at some point. And once you start adding your regular foods back, you can tell what the problem foods are, because you'll start to get congested. You may get a little bit of a headache. You may have some GI issues. And so that way you can keep a record, or keep in mind what your body told you that it did not respond well to when you were adding it back into your diet. But something also that I tell my patients a lot is ginger is good for cleaning out mucus in the system, and just using that, and it's easy to throw in a smoothie, just using that on a regular basis. It has a lot of anti-inflammatory properties, and a lot of different cultures have used it for many, many years. So it is really good with the GI system also. So incorporating that into soups or teas or smoothies is also a good idea.
Wow, that's great.
Don't forget the mechanics of breathing, because in our society, we don't really breathe. Yeah. If you're exercising brisk, you're not really breathing. Deep breathing exercises. They say most of Americans walk around doing shallow breathing, so you don't really get as much oxygen in, and that's a problem. So work on mechanics too.
And I like the footnote, milk, I agree with everyone, and milk and cow's milk, cheese, all that is mucus producing. So when she's saying she's having congestion and feels congested, you say eliminate cheese, but I tell people cow's milk because people say, well, I don't drink milk, but maybe cheese or yogurt, other things, but it is mucus producing. So that can congest the nasal passages, the bronchioles, etc. And so, but the cleaner the diet, I agree, the raw diet, many of these symptoms go away.
Yeah, the cow's milk has cow's pus in it because they can't get rid of all the bacteria. And I just want to comment, Patrice Moshe says that elimination of dairy allowed me to live mucus free. So her comment came right on time.
Hi, Patrice.
I think we also have to acknowledge, remember sugar also, I find is very
Yes.
mucus producing for people. And we don't think about, we all know about milk and dairy. We're starting to hear about that more in mainstream, but sugar is another major culprit.
Yeah, and along with that, I think that relates to the earlier topic of immunity. That was something I wanted to add, which was like, 1 liter of soda or 100 grams of sugar can decrease your white blood cell reactivity by like 40%. I mean, sugar is just like a horrible thing for the immune system. So not only just mucus, but it's like, inflammation, the immune system, the whole package, just get rid of the sugar.
Yeah. I don't want to emphasize the processed sugar, not the natural
yeah,
sugar.
it's processed sugar.
Right.
Yeah. Which is important.
Wheat flour, especially the processed wheat flour, but many people are sensitive to wheat and gluten, so wheat flour as well.
And Shonda Hector says, yep, eliminating dairy saved me from seasonal allergies. I'm free. So congratulations. Well, guys, as with anything, this hour went by fast. We started off with some technical difficulties, so we did start a little bit slow, but I do want to end on time. It's coming up on 8 o'clock. And, I want to thank all of our guests, especially those of you who submitted questions in advance and those of you who submitted questions and comments online. I think this has been a first show. I want to thank all of my expert panelists. I learn a lot every time we get together and talk, and today is no exception to that. I just want to emphasize to people that, we're in a healthcare crisis, and we came together to put together this panel as the beginning of a conversation. And oftentimes the questions you ask are not so straightforward, and each of us will do our own research. We have vast experience in different areas of medicine and nutrition. However, sometimes we will do our research. So one thing we'll commit to you is that we'll do our homework, and the answers that we submit to you will be based on information that we've researched and sound information. If we don't know the answer to your questions, we'll say as much. But I do appreciate the questions. I want to read through some of these last comments here before we sign off. Pat Lathrop says, thank you all. Rock Children Ministries, love for you, Atkins, from Martin and Lanisa. I guess they don't love the rest of us. So good to hear confirmation on how nutrition is so necessary. Patrice Moshe, does oil of oregano kill both the good and bad bacteria? Anybody want to answer that real quick? Oil of oregano?
Bad.
It
Okay.
only kills bad. Yeah, I like oil of oregano.
Okay, good. So we have that. So again, we will sign off. Thank you very much. Thank you, guest panel. And until next Monday, okay, we're going to help you go beyond the script. And also, for anyone, submit your questions in advance to beyondthescript@montgomeryheart.com. So submit questions to beyondthescript@montgomeryheart.com. I'm going to type this into the chat before we sign off. Future questions to beyond, and I don't know why I always have these long emails on the script it's another hour on the show. Montgomery.com. Okay. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you very much. And I'll see you next week.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. See you next
Thank
time.
you.
Bye.